And we are recording. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
Got Red
Good,
Wallace
good.
here, Vicky, Juliet, some awesome, great podcasters. This is super fire.
Yeah, happy to be here with you guys.
Absolutely. So,
Likewise.
Wallace, you want to go first?
Yeah. What's up? My name's Red Wallace. Currently, I'm a podcaster, a creative mindset coach and consultant, and yeah, I'm just happy to be here. Holden, you want us to call you Holden, or you want us to call you Rome? I know that your
I,
show is Go Rome TV.
I prefer Rome.
Rome.
Holden, all right.
That's my real name.
Gotcha.
So,
Juliet.
yep. So I'm Juliette Hahn. I am the host of three podcasts right now, two more on the way coming this summer. I also am a storytelling consultant where I help people kind of really shorten the buying cycles. Small businesses are really where my niche is, but like helping them kind of pick out those little golden bits of their story and being able to talk to their audience and get to know people a little bit more about getting comfortable in their personal and business story. And yes, I know. Can you believe I'm going to have five podcasts? I love it. I love it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's fun though. It's what I'm meant to do right now.
Yeah, that's super crazy. Vicky, fire podcaster.
Hello, you guys. My name is Vicky. I'm the host of I Am Fearless podcast. I like to interview entrepreneurs and get them to give me a transparent and really authentic perspective of what it's like to be an entrepreneur, how they overcome adversity, what they tell themselves in challenging times, how they keep that momentum going. So I like to say that my podcast kind of is like feeds this entrepreneurial spirit. So that's my jam.
Love it.
Super fire. But back to Juliet. The five. You're about to have five podcasts total.
So I have Your Next Stop is the one that I started. So I started that in 2019, and that's where I interview people that have followed a passion and turned it into a business. And then I have my two YNS, like Your Next Stop, live ones that are with the NFL Thread, which is the LinkedIn for women. I have YNS Live with NFL Thread, and then YNS Live with NFL Thread Pivot. I also have a live show that I do, with Your Next Stop, and then I have two new ones. One I actually can't tell you either of their names because they're going to be starting this summer, but one is on strictly midlife, like what women go through after having kids, as we raised our kids, what happens with our body, our minds, all of that. It's going to be more of like a Netflix kind of series. There's going to be humor, but just a lot. I have a co-host with that. And then the second one is going to be on dyslexia awareness. So I am dyslexic. I have a family full of dyslexics, and my co-host is a former NHL Stanley Cup winner, and we partnered to really go out there and talk about the things that parents need to know: early education, early detection, helping some of the unfortunates that can't like financially get there, giving them the tools to do it. But we're also sharing our personal stories. My co-host was in the league for 18 years. Played over 1,000 games. Definitely a very well-known athlete. But when he got out of the league, he was, 16, he left home, didn't know he was dyslexic until he was 32. And so we're trying to change the narrative on dyslexia because it's not an intelligence thing. 40% of self-made millionaires are dyslexic. We just think a little different. And that's actually how what I do in my storytelling consultancy, and then also on my podcast, I ask a lot of questions that people sometimes don't realize what I'm doing, but I'm asking very curious questions. And I bring out in my guests and clients something that they maybe sometimes hasn't thought about. So they're like, oh, wait, no one's ever asked me that. And then we go down this beautiful conversation, and you can feel the passion and the energy of, the because of a question I asked. And so yeah, so that's where I'm going. But yeah, two more, and it's gonna be interesting juggling it all, but it's what I'm meant to do right now.
Super fire. I know you're super busy.
I am, but I mean, I also have three teens. I can work when they're at school, so I have the day. I am an entrepreneur, so I do, and I can weave it in. It's like, okay, I know my recording schedule. That's one thing I have to be like super, okay, I have the time for myself. I wake up early. get, what I need to get done. And then it's like, okay, I'm either recording, working with the client, and we just have our schedules. And then I do have help on the editing side. I wouldn't be able to do it if I had to edit, because that's not where I'm great. I mean, I can edit, but that is where I kind of hand off and have my team help me a little bit there.
Super fire. You and Vicky definitely got to do a podcast together.
I know.
And you guys all got kids. I don't got no kids yet. So like, I love how you guys, you go through life every day. You guys are, taking care of your kids, taking care of yourself, and you guys still manage to do like fire podcasts, because all your podcasts are super fire.
Thank you. And ditto.
Thank you.
Yeah, Vicky, if you want to jump in, as a parent or Red, I don't want to. I can
Oh my
talk all
gosh.
day.
So actually, Julie, I was just thinking, I like literally just took a note, and I'm like, I have a guest for that dyslexic podcast that I don't know if I should call it the dyslexic podcast, but
Well, yeah, right.
but I have a guest that I think that you should interview, and he is fantastic, and he's overcome dyslexia, being dyslexic, and now he's like a public speaker. It's like phenomenal story. Yeah. So
definitely,
but,
please connect us. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that that's what also too that I love so much about being a podcaster is that like the connections that you get to make.
yes.
And so you get to have these conversations, and you're just like kind of talking, and it's like light bulbs go off, and you're like, oh, I can kind of get in there. You know what I'm saying? I love that.
Me too. The networking, I think, is one of the best things. I mean, I know like being and connecting with people, like we would never have connected, right, if we didn't have a podcast. And it doesn't matter where we're from, what we do, meeting different people, you learn. I always say you can learn from anyone. You can learn from someone that's homeless to a CEO, because we all have knowledge. We all have stories. We all have something to share. And people just need to stop and ask questions and connect and see where things go and daydream and just live life in the way it's like, okay, I have my eyes wide open. I don't want to be the person that's just going this way. Even when and we all have had times in our lives, right, where it's happened, where it's like you're in the weeds right now, Red, with the 3-month-old, that you're like, I can't even, I'm not even sleeping. But you're going to have that, and then you're going to pivot.
For sure. Yeah, and I can definitely attest. Thankfully, she actually sleeps really well through the night. It's more so that during the day, like for now, for instance, I'm juggling, watching her while watching also my 2.5-year-old as I'm doing this podcast, and it can be definitely a bit distracting. But one thing I've noticed is just embracing each season. Like one of the first podcasts I did when we had both of them, I had like 4 interruptions. But instead of just letting that stop me from continuing what I'm doing, I was fully present as dad, but also fully present as a podcaster. And we just took that moment to be like, you know what, it's okay. We can pause. That's why they have editing. And thankfully I'm growing, and my team as well, man. And my background was video editing, actually. I started my journey as an editor for a YouTube ministry that had quite a following, and that was also on broadcast on TV as well. So like I know the space of editing, and it's something I'm probably fairly good at for my experience. But it's, I mean, once you become the talent and once you become like the person on screen, it's a lot better to delegate and automate the things that you can. And one of my specific areas, not to transition the conversation to wherever, but one thing I specifically focus on with a lot of my creative clients is burnout. And as someone who's experienced it myself and someone who juggles a lot of things, I think that it's important for us to learn the rhythm of rest and work, because as entrepreneurs, as creative people that want to create all these amazing things, being able to schedule that rest and schedule those things that bring you fulfillment, that's how we're going to do this for forever. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm in this for the long haul, not just for a short flash of fame. I'm here to actually make a huge impact. But yeah, I love hearing this, all these connections, and I agree. It's the connections for me. I've been blessed to interview some really extraordinary people and have some awesome, interesting conversations. That's the way that I like to put it for my podcast. It's mostly focused for creative entrepreneurs, but it's just amazing to see what people do with their circumstances and their stories. And it's like you said, I think that we can learn from everyone. And it's so impressive to me just to meet someone online, like what we're doing now. The beauty of technology, like we're all sitting here in the comfort of our own places, but we're coming together and we're all learning from each other. But yeah, it's such a beautiful thing.
For real, bro. What so like as far as like a strategy, how did you guys come up with yours?
You got to
Uh,
call, yeah, Nick, I was gonna say you got to call her
you
name
know,
out. Who you want to answer first?
well, okay, I'll go first for you guys. So initially when I started my podcast, I was doing like this monologue kind of thing where I would just get on and I was just talking because I was experiencing a lot of pain at the time, and so I had suffered a lot of loss, and so I just felt like that I just needed to get it out, and I actually was experiencing some like pain in my throat for a minute. It was like I had like a lump in my throat, and I noticed that as I started talking, that I started to feel better. And so initially, I started kind of sharing my podcast with just a few close friends, and then they started sharing it with other people. But then when I thought about it, I was like, I really don't want to just continue to talk about, you know, the unfortunate things that are happening in my life, right? Like I felt like that it was a space to where I could really spread some positivity, and that's what I was actually seeking. And so my strategy and my niche kind of or niche, however you want to say it, switched to from being just about me to I really wanted to shine the light on other people that inspired me, that like pushed me, motivated me, whether they realized that they were doing it or not, just by them being them. And so sometimes I feel like that my podcast, and I've told this to Red before. Is that his name? What's your name again?
Yeah, it's Red. Everyone
It's
calls me Red.
Red,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. You're
Red,
right.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
We because he and I after you connected us, Rome,
Hmm.
I messaged him and we kind of talked a little bit, and I was telling him I was like, sometimes I feel like that my podcast, it serves me more than anybody else, and because I just get so much from it, and I actually feel like that through this podcast, I almost get like that one-on-one mentorship, personalized, customized for me, right? But then I just share it with everybody else. So that's kind of been my strategy, I guess, is just continuing to shine a light on other entrepreneurs and me drawing inspiration from it and sharing it with everybody else.
Fire, super fire.
I love that. Well, it's actually really funny that you said that because when I started mine, it was personal journal stories. It was at a time of my life where my kids were getting older. I needed something. I chose to stay home with them, and I loved it. We had just moved, and I was really seeking a creative outlet, and I didn't realize that's what I was seeking. And I'm not going to get into my whole story, but I basically, for many years, did not think I was creative. I was an athlete. I played college sports, and that's where I got my praise because in the classroom I did not. And so for me to all of a sudden find this new creative outlet, I was like, this is amazing. I mean, I literally went on a dog walk. I have two boxers. I walk them every day, and that's where I daydream. And that's what I always say to people. You have to find that spot to daydream. Some people call it meditation. I have to move. I cannot sit still, or I think of the dishes and the laundry, and I don't want to do that. So I have to move. And so I started, it was called Next Stop Crazy Town and Crazy Town is like endearing to me. It's like the chaos. It's, the kids around, the dogs. And it was literally personal journal stories of just things that I went through as in motherhood, and as my career, I decided to put that on the back burner and stay with the home with the kids and where that journey went. And sometimes it was wonderful, and other times where I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I messed up. Like, I messed up as a mom, and so I really started talking about that. And then pandemic happened and I started interviewing. I kind of pivoted because I was like, I want to see what's happening around the world. There's my curiosity. So I started interviewing people around the world. It was right when Clubhouse came about. And I had all people from all different corners and I started interviewing them, and I called it Quarantine Stories. We kept it like as a series within the podcast. And as I interviewed another person, I was like, this is what I'm meant to do. I am meant to do this. And then a business kind of came out of it. And as I was doing that, that's where I started interviewing people that had followed a passion and turned it into a business or a charity or something like that, because it was literally exactly what I was doing. And so, as Nikki, as you said, it is Vicky. Did I say Nikki? Is it Vicky?
Vicky,
It's
yeah.
Vicky. It was literally where I was as my journey was going, and then helping people kind of get their stories and helping them articulate things that were maybe tough or things that they didn't think were important, or if they were like, no, I didn't have like a crazy life. Like I've, had pretty, normal stuff, helping them find those pieces that are still going to connect because everyone has tragedy, right? We all do. It doesn't matter how big it is or how small it is, really just talking that. And then the NFL stuff came out because Cynthia was one on my podcast. She was one of my guests, and then we collaborated. And as doors just keep opening, I'm like, this is where I'm meant to be. I believe in God. This is where God has put me, and I'm just going to continue to be curious, continue to keep walking and opening those doors, meeting people like you guys, because you never know. I say yes, and the burnout is real, but I feel like I pivot whenever, or like I'm like, okay, I'm 49, so I'm pretty in tune to what I need and what I don't need. I feel like as age kind of comes about. And so I really know I need that time in the morning, and then I have my schedule. And I usually don't record on Friday because I know I'm burned out by Friday. So Fridays are just kind of discovery calls and kind of light. Monday I have a little bit less. I don't do as much. I maybe have clients, but it's not like as intensive. But so I know my schedule, and so I think that's, again, when things come out like this, when you meet people and you keep just being curious and asking questions and not be afraid of failure. So, yeah, not being afraid of taking risks, because if you don't take risks, what's life about?
Right.
Yes, girl. Let me unmute myself. Yes.
Come on, so good.
So, like, speaking of burnout, how do you? Because like you be burnt out by Friday, I'll be burnt out by like Wednesday. Um, what's some things that you do? Like, how do you keep the self discipline and like know when to say yes, know when to say no? Like when people want to do certain things, you're like, okay, nah, I'm burnt out, I can't go. How do you like level all of that?
I mean, I'll jump into that. I mean, because I definitely, I mean, as you know, when you guys are in the space, we get calls all the time, right? I just go with my gut. If it works at the time, it's meant to happen. So I don't stress myself out. If it doesn't work, it's not meant to happen at that time. I really believe in kind of like things happen for a reason. Now, do I sometimes get like stressful? I'm like, oh, I really want to make that work. This dyslexic podcast, I'll give you an example. I didn't know really if that was meant to happen. And it took me down like a journey where I was like, okay, wow, this could also get vulnerable. I know I'm going to be talking about things that maybe I haven't thought about in school that maybe I stuffed. I didn't want to talk about. And I not only did I pray on it, but I was like, okay, I need to do something that I haven't done. And I am, as I said, I played athletic sports in college. I've always been an athlete, but I always walk my dogs. And that's a lot of times when I'm walking. I do it right when the kids go to school, right before my day starts. And that is my kind of solace time. But I also make sure I work out. And it's like sometimes it's annoying because I'm like, ugh, but I recently got into yoga, and people for my entire life have been telling me I need to do yoga. And I'm like, no, it's too slow. It's too slow. And at this kind of time where the podcast was like, okay, I'm like, should I take this on? Should I take this on? I think I really need to chill, have time, like maybe 1 hour a day where I mean, my brain goes all the time. I never not have a thought. And there's no place. Maybe if I'm on the water, I get like 5 seconds, but I'm always thinking. And it's not like bad or stress. Sometimes I'm like, oh, the sky is blue. Oh, look at that bird. It's not like it's thinking, deep thinking, but I really never stop. So I started doing hot yoga, and I've now had 8 days in a row. I've gone like for last like 4 weeks, like here and there, a couple times a week. And I can actually settle. But I don't know if I'll do yoga for the rest of my life. But right now, it's what I need. And so I just kind of listen to my body and kind of really explore, like ask those questions. Like, what do I need? Does it always like unfold right away? Like I'm talking about a flow? No. There's times where it's like, oh my God, I'm really pushing my head up. I'm not feeling creative right now. I'm feeling frustrated. What's happening in the business? What's doing here? Why can't I get that? I do all that as well. But I also give myself grace that I'm like, okay, I know when I have these down moments, there's just going to be a high moment on top. I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to continue to go. But if I keep hitting that wall, maybe that's something I need to let go. Maybe that's something that's not supposed to happen, because I feel like if you just keep following, but keep moving forward and not getting stagnant, we all do, but just then, okay, today I'm going to move forward. I'm going to explore that a little bit. And again, you keep hitting that wall. It's like, no, that was good for the time I needed. There's no wrong paths. I really believe we learn in those paths. those are stepping stones to where we're meant to go, and and again, my view is where God has, why he created us.
Super fire. Wallace, how you deal with your burnout?
I would think of offhand. I can think of two things. So I focus on a monthly energy audit, and it's super practical. You just take out a sheet of paper. You write a line down the middle. On one side, you write the things that energize you. On the other, you write the things that drain you. And the goal is, if there's things that drain you that you're spending time on, either eliminate them, delegate them, automate them, or find a way that you can turn those that drain you into things that energize you. That's one simple thing. And then the other thing would be that you have to schedule something that brings you joy and makes you come alive. For instance, like if you are creative and podcasting is what you do for a living, it's super easy to get burnt out because it's become a living. So what is that other creative thing that's unrelated at all to what you do that you can do for fun? And I mean, it doesn't have to be something that's bringing you income. It could be literally something that brings you joy. For me, I like to work out. Like I have the daily things. I'm also a believer in God, so it's definitely going to be time with God, prayer. That's going to be essential. Like those things are like non-negotiables. And definitely set up the non-negotiables that you need, because we've heard it probably a million times. You can't pour from an empty cup. And a lot of times when we're burnt out, it's because we haven't put in the time to fill back up, refuel, and fill our cup. And I would much rather be overflowing so I can just pour out to everyone than to run around with holes in my cup or just running on empty. And it's really easy to do that if you schedule it, because what gets scheduled gets done. And as creatives, sometimes we shy away from schedules, but I think schedules are so important. And yeah, like all planning isn't perfect, and you're going to mess up, and especially life with kids. I mean, I've got things that I'm going to do in my day, and if they don't get done at 5 a.m. because all of a sudden someone decides to wake up at 5 a.m., they'll still get done later in the day. And it's just, you have those things that are for you, and doing and finding the time you do have. I feel like a lot of times people get so focused on, for instance, if it's something you want to pick up and maybe it's working out. And a lot of times they're like, I don't have an hour to go to the gym, but you got 10 minutes, you got 20 minutes. So like stop focusing on the time you don't have and look at the little bit of time you do have. And that could be applied to anything. And I just think that a lot of times we'll spin our wheels doing these things that overwhelm us. And again, that goes back to this idea of burnout. For me, what I learned was I was doing everything that didn't fulfill me. And I had to ask myself, am I doing these things to please other people? Or am I doing these things to further make the impact, to achieve the goals that I want to achieve? Because again, I love that we've got people of faith in here, so I can definitely lean into the fact that I believe like we were created on purpose with a purpose. And discovering that purpose is crucial, because once we've figured out like our why in life, our purpose, our calling, then those times that we do feel burnt out and drained, we can have those energy audits, and we can do, oh, yep, she agrees. And Violet said, amen. But we can have those times where we're just like, what is going on? Why am I so tired? Why am I so drained? And I believe that it's in those moments we have the opportunity to pause, to slow down. One of the coaches that I have always says you can slow down to speed up. And I never understood that, because I mean, if y'all know what the Enneagram is, I'm a type 3, which means I'm a high achiever. I'm a performer. All my life I've been like performing and striving to get people's approval. And it was through rediscovering who I was that we're not human doings, we're human beings. And a lot of times when we get burnt out, we get stuck in this doing. And if we could just take 5 minutes out of our busy life and breathe and remember that it's not that important. It's going to wait. And just like I could keep going and being crazy on this because I'm so passionate about it. But if I pause and say, you good? Is everything good? Are you okay? And then I'm able to be present in the moment. And a lot of people we're so focused on the idea of we have to keep going and going and going. But what would happen if we just paused and got present in this moment? Then you begin to see, oh, it's okay. I'm going to be all right. I'm not really that overwhelmed. It's not, and I love the idea of the chaos that you mentioned, because it definitely feels like chaos when you're in the middle of it. But that's the beauty of it, is because if you can sit in that moment and realize there's something to be grateful for, and it might be a tangent off of the burnout, but I feel like it's important to be said, is like when I think about, I'm sitting here holding a miracle, because my wife had 2 miscarriages before we had my daughter that's now crying. And I heard the perspective so beautifully said when they said that a crying baby is an alive baby. And it sounds so crazy, but it's like a lot of times we get so caught up in everything else that we miss out on the miracle of life that's in front of us. And that's how I tend to go away from burnout.
Super fire, bro. Super fire. Vicky, how you deal with your burnout?
How do I deal with my burnout? Well, you know what? I think that I'm still practicing, right? It's like it's one of those things to where, I'm learning how to navigate through it, because this podcast it's new to me, and with kids, and then I also have a job now, because through the podcast I got a job, and I think Red brought up a good point, and something that I often practice is gratitude. So a part of my daily routine, and when I'm committed to my daily routine, I should say, I wake up in the morning, I meditate, I write 10 things that I'm grateful for in my gratitude journal. I read my Bible for a little bit, and then I exercise, because I've got to get my body moving. And when I'm really on it, I'll do like gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I'll either do yoga or Pilates or bar or something like that on Tuesday and Thursday. But even though that those things seem like, it's like, dang, like how can you add that to your plate? Those things are really just for me. And it really helps me to clear my thoughts, reshift, reorganize, like kind of, and also it helps me to be more fluid, to where I feel like it gets me out of the rat race and trying to force everything to happen. And I find myself being like more relaxed, because I think I've just expended a lot of that energy that I'm kind of trying to store up. So I think that it's a strange thing, but I think that the key to being overwhelmed, is to kind of just, this is gonna sound crazy, but maybe do a little more for yourself, though. Not more so for the things that you have to do, but like take that energy and put it towards you, because then you're pouring back into you. And like Red was saying, you're refilling your cup, and so that way you can be refreshed, restored, and made new, so that way you can, go out and do it again.
Right, super fire. I mean, I know you guys got to get going. Y'all gotta, do some things, but we gotta do another episode when you guys could.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, sounds good.
Me too.
I really appreciate it. I'll send you guys a DM.
All right, perfect. So a great meeting. I followed you both on IG, and we'll definitely
Yeah,
stay
definitely.
connected.
Let's
Yes,
stay connected.
yes.
It's be on each other's podcast, and definitely
I
network.
love that.
Yes,
I
and
love that.
thanks, Rome, for connecting us and being, the connector.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
We
you.
appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
All
All right,
right.
thanks, Holden.
Bye, y'all.
See ya.